Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Jordan, and I will be your host today. Before we dive in, I want to take a quick moment to introduce Microsoft Reactor. Microsoft Reactor is a global community space for developers, startups, and students to learn, connect, and build. We host free events, workshops, and meetups designed to help you grow your skills, explore new technologies, and connect with industry experts. If you'd like to stay connected and hear about future sessions, scan the QR code to subscribe to our Reactor newsletter. You'll get updates on new series, training opportunities, and community highlights, all straight to your inbox. Before we wrap up, I want to introduce you to Microsoft Learn, an amazing resource to keep growing your skills after today's session. After the session, you can visit Microsoft Learn to continue exploring at your own pace. You'll find step-by-step learning paths, hands-on modules, and even certifications that can help you advance your career or deepen your technical expertise. It's the perfect next step to keep building on what you've learned here today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to learn and connect with us. And now, I'm pleased to hand it over to our speakers. Let's get started.
Welcome to Monitoring and Optimizing Microsoft Fabric. So I'm Martin, and I'm joined by my friend Johan. Johan, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. It's a bit
Great.
early on my side, or mid-afternoon from my side, and you're late evening?
I certainly am. 10 p.m. where I am, and I think around midday for you.
2 p.m. here, yeah.
Great stuff. So you're top of the morning for you.
Yeah, got my coffee ready and everything, so that's fine.
Nice one. I've got my chocolates and I'm ready for bed. But first, we'll get into this and we'll do a great job of explaining, optimizing, and monitoring to all our attendees.
All right. So, as I said, my name is Johan. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. And these are my contact details. Let's jump over to you, Martin.
Okay, thanks a lot, Johan. So like Johan, I'm a Microsoft MVP as well. I'm sort of specialized in Microsoft Fabric. Like most of the presenters on this series, my background's in SQL Server. I started life as a SQL Server DBA developer about 20 years ago, and I've come through that pathway onto Azure Data, and lately I've worked with Microsoft Fabric since its inception, just like Johan. So, Johan, are we joined by any moderators?
We did. We actually have two nice people here, and they are the ones doing all the hard work today, because they will be answering your questions in the chats. Amit Chandak and Ilgar Zabariliev, I think, something like that. And I apologize, Ilgar and Amit, if I have misspelled it, but that's the way. Yeah. Okay. We are now on the third of this 4-session journey on your exam DP-700. So monitoring and optimizing solutions. Let's talk about some can't miss opportunities, Martin.
Yeah, can't miss opportunities. So keep your eye, if you're attending live on YouTube, keep your eye on the chat. There may be some things coming through that you'll want to pay attention to. But before we get into that, there may be some discount vouchers coming along for PL300 and 600. Who knows? We'll have to see. Now, we just had a great FabCon Europe. It took place in Vienna. I believe you were there, Johan, were you?
No, I wasn't. They didn't want me this year, so yeah.
Okay. Well, I wasn't there either, but we were both in Las Vegas in March last year, and we'll be back in Las Vegas in March next year in 2026.
Actually, no. You might want to be somewhere else than in Las Vegas, because we're going to Atlanta.
Oh, you are correct, Johan. You are correct. Lucky I didn't turn up in the wrong place there.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, that would have been fun indeed. But before we get onto those, we've got some series are coming. Like what this is part of the Fabric Day-to-Day series. So we've got another 2 or 3 of these to run, and then we're going on to a new session, 50 days of learning all about Fabric. So stay tuned and look for those events.
Yeah, the Fabric Day-to-days are coming on the 4th of November. And then again, 50 days of learning, everything about Fabric. And then FabCon Atlanta, as we mentioned earlier, March 16th until March 20th. And you can certainly save some money by using the Fab Live code, $200. That's quite a nice little discount.
It is
And of
indeed,
course,
yeah, it is.
yeah. And I'm looking forward to this Atlanta, home of the Coca-Cola company. Should be good.
Is that right? Is
Yeah.
that right?
And remember, this is right now live and interactive.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So all of our audience members, if you've got any questions coming up, throw them in the chat. We've got our 2 great moderators standing by. Hopefully they'll answer your questions. If there's anything that comes up that the moderators feel we need to elaborate on, they'll get it through to us and we will elaborate on it, will we, Johan?
Well, we'll try at least. We will try.
We can't do any more than that, Johan. We can't do any more than that.
All right. So, monitoring and optimizing Microsoft Fabric solutions is the topic for today. So we're going to be using the DP-700 study guide as our guide through the series. And this is, of course, that 3rd part of this. So what will we cover today, Martin?
What will we cover today? Right, in this session, we'll be obviously talking about monitoring and optimizing Microsoft Fabric. So obviously there's a lot of experiences within Fabric, and each one might need their own specific monitoring and optimization techniques. So we're going to look at how we do that throughout the Fabric ecosystem. So monitoring on one hand to see what's going on, not just what's gone wrong, what's gone right. You know, what's the system doing at any particular time, and looking at things like logs and metrics and all of that sort of thing, so we can know how our system is basically performing or not performing as a whole. We look at like some optimization techniques. So if, for example, our monitoring is telling us that something's not performant or it's overperformant, we can look at optimizing that to get the correct like cost optimization of the complete solution. And also, I think in our later session, we'll be talking about security on the one hand and compliance on the other hand, which is a big deal. You know, if you're working in things like healthcare or finance, you know, there's compliance rules that you have to stick to. And obviously you want to make sure that you're compliant with security techniques. So security is front and center, Johan, at the moment, do you feel?
It is. And coming from an audit company, it's definitely something that we keep in mind. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we then try and do some quick recaps?
Sure, we can. So DP-700 skills, like I guess we're going to get into this. Yeah. So what do we have to do, Johan?
Well, because what you want to do is, of course, to understand what the certification asks of you. So you need to think about, again, ingesting and transforming the data, securing and managing it, and monitoring and optimization and analytic solutions. And all of these are components. You can't just bet on one of them and hope to stay out. Because if we look at this slide, you'll see that there is about 30-35% of each of these components, which means that even though this might be a boring topic for you, you need to pay attention today, because you're not going to get out of this going scot-free.
I think you made a very good point there, Johan. You said at the start, like, well, you've got to do what the certification asks of you. And Microsoft publish a list of what you've got to do, you know, what each section of the exam you'll be monitored on. And you can go through that list and look at it and know that it's going to ask you about this or that or whatever is on the list, and just stick to that list and brush up on those subjects, and you should be fine. That's how I got through these exams, Johan. Don't know about you.
Yeah, it's sticking to it. But look at that URL at the bottom here on the bottom right. So aka.ms/DP-700 study guide. That takes you to the list of all the things that you need to do. And there it will also point out all the different things that you can do to learn each subject that we're going to cover here.
We certainly are. We'll cover the tool sets, how to optimize for transactional performance, how professionals transition to these things, and hopefully I'll give our audience some good clues around how to pass this exam.
Yeah, hopefully, and fingers crossed you will, because I've gotten messages from people previously who've attended our sessions and they've been happy and passed. So that's
Yeah, and it's great to see that. As a presenter, it gives you a really good feeling that you've helped people out. I've got a few like that, and I know a lot of people who presented these sessions before. I've helped people out and got good feedback as well. So, should we get into it?
Yeah, we should. So,
okay. So, why monitor and optimize Microsoft Fabric? What matters in Microsoft Fabric? So, let's see what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about, the significance of monitoring. So there's monitoring and there's optimization. Sorry, the two things go kind of hand in hand. They're different, but one helps the other and the other helps back the other. So we've got to monitor and collect metrics around what's going on in our ecosystem, whether it's a small bit to one side, whether it's affecting the whole ecosystem, whatever it is. Our monitoring is aimed at telling us what's going right or what's going wrong. Because one of the big things that we do want to do is maximize the performance and the efficiency. So we don't want to over provision performance. We don't want our compute scaling up when we only need a little bit of compute. And at the same token, we don't want a little bit of compute when we actually need a lot of compute and things are grinding to a halt. And so that's kind of cost optimizing it, keeping the costs under control and giving us a good view into what's going on. So effectively, that's better resource allocation. So as we put the correct resources in place, we can provision them at the right level to give us an optimized cost. And that goes on things like enhancing data throughput and the timeliness that our audience is getting the data, how dashboards might change, whether they're waiting 5 minutes for a dashboard or whether they're getting it instantaneously in a couple of seconds. This is kind of a bit of a, it's a bit of an art and a bit of a science at the same time. So we're getting metrics through, which is the science bit, and maybe the art bit is tweaking it so our users stay happy. So to sum up, it's really proactive issue detection and resolution, not just being proactive. Sometimes it's reactive, but mostly what we want to do is be proactive and sort of come across on optimization techniques before they turn into problems. So, have we got anything else there? Oh, yeah, we're going to cover the benefits of monitoring and optimization ourselves. So what exactly are the benefits? So we might want our solution to scale, Say we've got to churn through a lot of data, but we've only got small capacity to do that, small compute. We actually want that to scale in real time. So we've got enough capacity to churn through all that data and to process it in the time in an efficient manner. We also want to reduce risk. If we've got things have gone wrong, like data corruption, we need to know about that ASP. If we're dealing with a SaaS system, so hopefully things go right, but we can't rely on them going right all the time. We've got to be proactive, as we just talked about, and know that if things do go wrong, can we revert to backups? Do we have a plan to get them out of it? And the best laid plans are kind of really good to put in place. and deal with any kind of suboptimal situations that come up. Would you agree, Johan?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So it's all about user experience. At the end of the day, we've got users obviously tuning in and using our solutions, and they're going to give feedback. We've got to keep them happy. You know, you might think it's all about the tech. Obviously, the tech's a big part, but the user feedback is really important. So improving their user experience and keeping them happy, maximizing the capacity that we've got, using it to the best of its ability, and also setting up alerts. So alerting is a big deal. You know, if there's things that need addressing, we need to know. I mean, we're not going to sit in front of a monitoring screen for 24 hours a day. So what we need is alerts that come through in real time, and maybe not just alerting a human being, maybe kicking off a process that can heal whatever's gone wrong itself. Some sort of automated process to do. So there's a few things there. I think I've explained that, at a high level, Johan. So I tell you what we should do. Should we dip into this in a bit more detail and let our audience see what we mean by some of these features?
Sure. So let's see. Monitoring. So in Fabric, you can schedule activities and jobs that perform tasks like data movement and transformations. Some activities may have dependencies on one another, and you need to make sure that the data arrives in the expected location on time. And of course, system errors or delays don't affect the users or downstream activities. And downstream, I mean, upstream is the source, and downstream might be your Power BI report. So that's the full stream. End-to-end processes need to be managed to ensure that they're reliable, performant, and resilient. And one aspect of this is, of course, monitoring. And you monitor to identify and handle any long-running operations and errors effectively. So by doing this, you can minimize downtime and quickly address any underlying issues. So these are some of the following activities that you can perform to deliver the data to users, and these activities should also then be monitored. So data pipeline activity. So a data pipeline is a group of activities that together perform a data ingestion task, and the pipelines allow you to manage, extract, and transform and load, so ETL, ELT, whatever, activities together instead of doing them individually. And monitoring the success or failure of jobs and pipeline activities is therefore crucial. Look for errors if the pipeline failed, build alerts that trigger, so for instance, using the data activator in real-time intelligence to trigger on a notification or trigger something else when things fail. Data flows are tools for ingesting, loading, and transforming data using a low-code interface, whereas the pipeline activities are more full code. And data flows can be run manually or scheduled or run as part of pipeline orchestration. So monitor start and end times, status, duration, and table load activities. Do I get the 100 rows I expected or not? For instance. So to investigate the issues, drill down into activities and view information about the errors. Semantic model refresh. And the semantic models, as you might know, is a visual representation of the data model. And that's ready for reporting and for visualization. So basically consumption by Power BI, for instance, or most of the time it will be Power BI. So it contains transformations, calculations, and data relationships. And changes to the data model require the semantic model to be refreshed. And semantic models can be refreshed from data pipelines using the semantic model refresh activity. It can also be refreshed by API calls or something else. And monitor for refresh retries to help identify transient issues before classifying an issue as a failure. Spark jobs, notebooks, and lakehouses. So notebooks are interfaces for developing Apache Spark jobs. Data can be loaded or transformed for lakehouses using Spark and notebooks. So monitor those Spark job progresses, task execution, resource usage, and review the Spark logs. And all of this can be fetched from within the system. We will look a bit further into that, of course. And Microsoft Fabric event streams, those are streams of data coming through, mainly event type of data, and events are observations about the state of an object. So, for instance, my outdoor thermometer will send an update of whenever the temperature changes. Or my rain sensor outside will tell me if there is any rain coming in, on how much. And all these things can then be streamed into monitoring dashboards and so on. And the event streams in Fabric are set up to run perpetually to ingest those streaming data, because when you're working with events like this, it's typically boundless data. It's just coming in continuously. And then it's, of course, important to have these ever running or perpetually running event streaming jobs. So it's important then to analyze and monitor these solutions, because either the transformation or analytics component or the routing that will happen, because event streams can also route to multiple places. So to monitoring that streaming event data, ingestion status, and ingestion performance is crucial. The monitoring best practices is to, monitoring is to collect system data and metrics that determine if a system is healthy and operating as expected. Monitoring exposes errors that have occurred and when they happened. So to investigate issues and remediate errors, historical data is analyzed to get a picture of the health of a system or process. Make sure to continuously monitor the data ingestion, transformation, and load processes to ensure they're running smoothly. And the monitoring best practices include things like identifying what to monitor in your estates and the metrics that you need to track. Collect and analyze data on a regular basis to identify normal behavior, because when you can identify what is normal, it's a lot easier than to identify or spot the anomalies when they occur. Review your logs and metrics regularly, and again, this establish a baseline for what normal is, because if you don't know what normal is, it's very, very hard to understand when you're deviating from that normal.
That is a really good point, Johan. Knowing what is normal, and your monitoring is going to tell you that. So that is I think that's one of the best pieces of advice we could give on this.
Yeah, it's one of the things that you can't really know before you start using the system, and I've used it for a little while. So yes, turn on any log notes that you can, and just follow along for a while, and spend that first month to learn. Of course, things will fail, but that's fine. At least you will understand over time what your normal level is, and that's basically where you need to make sure that you stay within that boundary. Actionable insights. So making sure that when you see that you are deviating from the normal, take action on them. There are tools in Fabric that allow you to automate some of these actions. So either to say, okay, if the pipeline has failed, try to restart it, or try to alert somebody, or try to kick off a notebook that does something else. Basic IT responses, have you tried turning it on and off again? You can actually do that in Fabric as well. Maybe not recommended in all cases, but it's doable. And then, of course, from the normal is also a lot easier to understand what you need to optimize to make sure that all the different processes stay within that normal parameter or boundary, so to speak. So in Fabric, you have a monitor hub, and this monitor hub has a set of items that you can look into. The monitor hub will collect and aggregate data from select Fabric items and processes, and it scores creation, transformations, movement, and analysis activities. in one place rather than having each of them separate. And some of the activities you can see in the monitoring metadata for the Monitor Hub is things like data pipeline execution history, data flow executions, data mart and semantic model refreshes, Spark jobs and notebook execution history, and job details. I will show you how to monitor, to open and find the Monitor Hub in just a few minutes or a few seconds. But it's easy to find it. And then inside, as this screen also shows, you can go in and see the different activities in the Monitor Hub that can be selected and different activities that you can run here. So actions vary by activity and include things like opening the activity, retrying it, viewing activity details, and historical runs. And there are some menus that you can hover over and enable you to open them. And when you select View Detail, the screen that appears is customized for the activity that you select and provides some clarity about what happens during the activity. And you can view metadata such as status, start and end time, duration, and activity statistics. So to investigate what happened during an activity, some activities in Monitor Hub include hyperlinks that allow you to drill down into the execution details. Information is provided about any errors and the success and failure of an execution. Spark activities across items can be viewed, and you can view the Spark applications triggered from notebooks, Spark job definitions and pipelines, and more. And there are some details on this on Microsoft Learn as well, where you can look for Apache Spark monitoring overview. Then I will see if I can find my demo environment and go to that into the right screen for you. All right. I'll zoom in a bit. So on the left pane here, you will be able to see, or can you see my screen, Martin?
Johan, sorry. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing this monitoring hub. I don't think we can see it. I don't think
I see that.
I can't see it. I don't know if you just shared a window or
I shared a window in here, and I shared my entire screen, but I'm suspecting that there's something stuck in there. Let me try something else, and we'll see how we can get that running.
Okay, yeah.
There's something about the way that this sharing mechanism it works.
This is why we're monitored. I'm monitoring you, Johan. You're monitoring me. It's looking good, mate. It's looking good.
We're deviating from the norm. Right. Yeah. Sorry about this, people. It seems the sharing mechanism is a bit flaky today. Rather than sharing the whole window screen, it shares just a window. Let's see how that turns out when we switch back again to the slides, but oh well. Right. So monitoring, on the left side here, you have this menu pane, and you can click on the monitoring. And here you will get into the monitoring. Of course, this is my demo environment. There's not a lot of production data showing here. But you have these different reports. There are two tests here, ignore those. But the Purview Hub, chargeback reporting, content sharing, and feature usage and adoption. And all of these are available to you to look at. So if you go into this one, you can see here there's an ellipsis here. You can see some details. Those details, again, these are Power BI reports. So basically it's just the details around there. And I have an ellipsis here where I can open. I can see the historical runs, but I can open it. And for some reason, that just showed me the refresh details. Oh, that's lovely. But here is the Power BI report. So this is the feature usage and adoption report. You can see here that I have my capacity names available. I can see the total activities and users by date. And again, it's just me here, so there's no real wonder that there is one active user every now and then coming in whenever I poke around. What kind of operations are most active? I can go in and see which capacitors are active. Mind you, again, this is a Power BI report. it needs to be refreshed to load in. There is an active capacity here, but that doesn't show because it was refreshed an hour ago, 2 hours ago. But you can see here my workspace info is not available. That's curious. Okay, Data Fabric is my most used demo workspace. I can see the users most active. User info not available. For some reason, that's should be me. It's just me here. So this is the usage report. Then let's go back to Montre again, and you will see that we have a content sharing as well. Let's open that and see where that opens. And that, of course, also opened the wrong pane. If any Microsoft PMs are watching, you need to check this out. Anyways, so this is the content sharing. And here you can see the total items I have available. And items in this place, I mean, you have workspaces, and within each workspace, you have a number of objects or items. So by items by workspace, you see that I have a workspace called Data Fabric. You saw that in the last report as well. That's the most populated workspace. Then I have one called Alpine Lakes, which is the second one with 34 items. And then I have two more with some more items in them. And I can go in here and drill through to see. Let's see now if I can actually get it to drill through on them. No, I can't. So why? I can also check that by workspace, sorry, by capacity, to see which of the capacities are most used here. I can see how many items are endorsed, or if I have any sensitivity labels applied. I haven't. Again, this is a demo environment. I haven't bothered to do that for these. But of course, if you're doing any real production work, you would really want to make sure that you have your sensitivity labels applied. See which domains you have active. If you don't use domains, they are also a very handy way to group workspaces together. And if you have multiple workspaces available, you can search on the domain level, and it makes it easier for people to find the workspaces. And then what kind of items I have available. I have semantic models. I have a lot of event streams, some reports, some KQL databases, and some workbench, running queries. And it makes sense because I do a lot of KQL on my free time. So that's where that comes from. I can go in and see more details on things like which items are and where they are lying. And I can go in and look at the workspace level here as well. So there are information, lots of information on content that I can look at in this report. And then let's see if we just need to close a few of these to get back on track. Monitor, and then the chargeback reporting is the final one that we want to make sure that we look at. Oh, come on, I didn't want that. Open. It really doesn't like me today. I think it's something with the demo gods or something. And why doesn't it not? Okay. We'll cheat and do that way instead. Right. So this is the chargeback reporting. That's the capacity consumption metrics, where you see the capacities you have available, which workspaces are being active. You can see the capacity utilization in percentage and utilization on the dates to see that I'm not really running a lot of consumption. Again, this is a demo environment, so that's really not a big surprise. You can drill down and look at what workspaces and capacities are being run here and see, okay, what's being billed and what is not. You can drill through to workspace details, item details, or domain details as well if you want. And these are all quite handy. But again, it's important to remember that these are Power BI reports. They are not showing anything in real time. They will need to be refreshed whenever. And they're running on the capacity level, which means that if a capacity goes over consumption or you're being throttled, they will not show anything different. So these are just for hindsight monitoring and viewing. There are also some other options that you can do. For instance, inside the real-time intelligence, you can provision a monitoring custo database that will track all the consumption within your real-time intelligence space. But that's not for the whole thing. And Martin will also show you some other monitoring activities that you will be able to do going forward. But let's jump back into the slides. And I think, Jan, if you can hear us, you can switch over to Martin's screen now.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. We're having a few issues here today, sharing screens. So I'm going to talk about optimizing analytic solutions here. So what are we going to talk about in the optimization of Fabric? So there are some key areas that we really need to look at. Fabric separates like the storage, and it separates the compute. So the storage, we've got a few storage components here. We've got lake houses, we've got warehouses, and we've also got databases. We've got quite a few different databases that exist within Fabric, and we might want to monitor those individually, and also, collect all that information that's coming from different places and associate it together to see if there's any kind of patterns going on. And we probably see that historical data in the displays that Johan's just showed us. Now, one of the things I'm going to look at in a little while is Spark Compute. So when Spark runs, it will run our notebooks, and it spins up a session, and the notebook runs on that session. Now, sometimes it takes a while to spin up, sometimes it'll start straight away. And there are settings to control that, whether, we want the notebook to go straight away, whether we want maybe a more high-powered notebook and we've got to wait a little while. There are settings to control all of that sort of thing. On top of that, there's things like processing as well. So Johan talked about event streams, and he also talked about pipelines. So what's really the difference between them two, and why might they need kind of different optimizations? So with a pipeline, we're kind of just, we're pulling data into our Fabric environment. So we might have, like, say, a SQL database or a Cosmos DB database that's collecting data, on-prem somewhere or outside of the Fabric ecosystem. So a pipeline will run, and it will reach into that system and pull the data out. And it might do that on a schedule. So it might only need to, to have extra processing power every hour or when it runs, for argument's sake. On the other hand, our event stream will be sitting there waiting for data to kind of be thrown at it. So basically, instead of having a database that's kind of static and we're reaching into, we've got something that's producing events and producing data. And that production of the data is kind of being, if you can imagine, it's being thrown at the event stream. So the event stream's just sitting there waiting for all this data to come in. And as it comes in, it's got to deal with it. And as I'm sure you can imagine, if we've got a big data stream, if we've got a lot of data coming over, then we need more processing to carry on. If we've only got a little bit of data, then maybe we don't need so much compute to monitor the event stream. And we'll need to scale that up and down in real time. So, there might be times when there's no data coming into our event stream, real-time data. There might be times when there's a lot coming into the system. And that'll all go into a KQL database, but ultimately it may end up going through to OneLake. So as we know, Fabric connects everything through OneLake. So OneLake is the storage layer that sits beneath the whole of Fabric. So all of our experiences and our solutions that are built, our lake houses and our data warehouses, they're all pulling data onto OneLake. So monitoring OneLake is probably one of the most crucial areas of monitoring that we need to to look at. We want to make sure that that is running well, and it's not like one component's not causing an issue that's affecting another component, and therefore has a knock-on effect to other things. So it's that unified compute engine. So all these optimizations and techniques can have that cascading effect on the overall performance, and that obviously is going to have an impact on our users, and it's also going to have an impact on the cost of running the holistic solution as a whole. So that's a really key fact in what we've got to monitor here. So let's just concentrate on storage for a while, on our storage optimization. So the format that this data is kept in within OneLake is it's Delta Lake optimized. And we can use various techniques to actually optimize that further. So for example, as we collect data and it comes into the system, it might come in a collection of small files. It might be, put on the data lake as a collection of very small files. Now, those small files might not be optimal to go and read. So there are techniques that we can use within our notebooks to compact those files and to optimize them so that when our users go to read that data, it's efficient and the data comes back to them straight away. Now, what's reading our data mainly? It's probably going to be our reports. So we want our reports to be snappy and we want them to be efficient. So therefore, we want our data to be compacted correctly and to be optimized to fully. So periodically, it's good to run these manually. Some of these techniques happen on scheduled. Some of them will happen automatically. Some of them we'll have to actually schedule ourselves and take advantage of. So we've got a few techniques there. We've got optimization. We've got an optimization component. We can compact data. And there's something there called Z-order. So what exactly is Z-order? Z-order is a technique that we can apply to our data to improve the reading of it. So that's a good point to take into consideration.
I tend to say that the Z-order is the index of the Delta Lake.
That's a great way of putting it, Johan. I should have thought of that myself, but thank you very much for chipping in there. But I think you are exactly right. So anyone who's dealt with SQL Server and data, back in the past, that they'll probably have no problem switching onto these techniques there. And we've also got partitioning and caching to enhance read performance of large data sets. Very closely related is a data warehouse, different than a lake house, but some of the techniques are very similar. So the data is stored in a column store like indexes. It's still Delta Parquet, and that's stored in a columnar fashion rather than rows. And so making that run efficiently for analytical queries is something that we really do want to do. So monitoring those distribution keys, coming up with good partition strategies. So we can't rely on the system to do everything for us. We've got to have these strategies and tell the system how to implement them. So we can balance performance across the nodes, we can optimize cost, and therefore we can make our systems good for our users. Okay, so what are the other compute and processing optimizations that we might use? So our pipelines, they need to optimize data movement, and probably, as well as optimizing it, they need to limit unnecessary movements, unnecessary transformations. But when they need to transform data or move data, if they can leverage things like parallelism, that's probably a good thing. Do we need to move a full set of data when we're only maybe updating a partial piece of it? So incremental loads instead of full loads. Do we need to do a full load when an incremental load will do? A full load will take more resources and ultimately cost more money. and an incremental load will probably be a lot cheaper. We can configure triggers on pipelines to kick off events and run the pipelines effectively. They can be based on events. So when something happens, that could kick off the trigger and some event could happen, whatever that is. We've got our real-time data. So most people I talk to have been dealing with sort of pipelines. But nowadays, there's more event stream data coming in, and the real-time system and the real-time hub within Fabric is becoming a lot more prominent than it maybe has been over the last few years. And the event streams, the event houses that house KQL databases are becoming more widely used, and therefore obviously need monitoring well as well. And then we've got Spark. So we talked about our notebooks running on the Spark engine and the Apache Spark system running in the background, and the optimization techniques that we have to do there. So optimizing our cluster sizing based on workload needs, our partitions, and so on and so forth. And we've got some query optimization techniques for SQL Server that most people who've been in DBAs would be familiar with, leveraging views, indexing and query hints, and optimizing your query patterns. So, tuning your queries, just because, like, let's say we've got two queries, they both run, they both bring back exactly the same data, but one might be far more performant than the other. And that's to do with the design, and the design will play a big part in the optimization of the actual query in general. And as we talked about, Johan touched on quite a lot, the monitoring of the, in this case, query plans, but monitoring anything in general. So before I go on to the security and compliance with Johan, I'll just dip into my Fabric capacity and I will show you where to go. So Johan, I'm just going to go over to my Fabric instance, and if you could if you could see my screen, okay, because I've got you can, okay. I'm just going to dip into my Fabric over here, and we'll look at where we can see those Spark settings. So
right now I think we are showing the wrong screen. Jordan is showing mine.
Oh, are we showing your screen? Okay, all right.
Now we're back to yours. So
okay, so back to my screen, are we? Okay, so let's dip into one of our workspaces. I've got a demo workspace over here, which is called Fabric Demos. I use this demo workspace for a lot of other things. And let's dip into this workspace in general. Let's go and we'll look at the workspace settings. So within the workspace settings, we will find down towards the bottom, we'll find a section called Data Engineering, Data Science. If we drop that down, we'll see some Spark settings down here. Now, there's a few settings we can leverage. When a Spark session runs, it will kick off what we call a starter pool. Now, a starter pool will literally start pretty much instantly within a second or two. There's no delay. But if we want something that's maybe a bit bigger, then we can choose a new pool and we can configure that with different sizes. So it doesn't have to be small, it can be large, memory optimized. We can choose to auto scale, so we can go up between, say, 1 node and 10 nodes. We can dynamically allocate our executors, which are the nodes that help the compute. And obviously we need to give that a name. We're not going to do that. We're just looking at the settings here. We can run jobs. So if our Spark pool isn't used for like a period of time, it'll go to sleep and it'll have to start again. We can do high concurrency, and we can automate some jobs as well. Within the notebooks, actually, before I hand back to Johan, I'll just talk about some things within a pipeline. So I've got a pipeline over here, run notebooks. So I just wanted to make a small call out to this. So I've got a pipeline, and within the pipeline, I've got 2 notebooks running. So what might happen under normal some circumstances is your notebook will run, it'll run to its conclusion, and then it'll close down for some reason. Or it won't close down, but then the next notebook will run and it'll start up a brand new notebook. And that pause will take time. But what we can do in there's a setting within the notebook in the advanced settings where you can put in what they call a session tag. And if you put in the same session tag on both of these notebooks, so we've got the session tag there and we've got an advanced setting here, so we've got the session tag, the same session tag, then we can leverage the same Spark pool to run the notebook. So far more efficient. So little things like that can go a long way to enhancing efficiency. Okay, so I might leave it there, Johan, and hand back to you if that's all right. If we could go over to sharing your screen maybe. And I've got to apologize for some of the delays I had there sharing the screen. As you say, Johan, I don't think the demo gods are with us today.
We forgot to sacrifice those version slides this morning.
We did indeed, Johan.
Such a shame. Right. Security and compliance then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take it away.
We'll discuss some fundamentals and then some of the security and compliance, and then look at some tools that we can help monitor the security and compliance. So this is a high level, very simplistic architecture slide of Fabric. Because Fabric is a foundation, or it's made as a SaaS service or software as a service. So it should deliver reliable and simplistic and scalable solutions. And of course, it's built on Microsoft Azure, the public cloud, combined with Power BI. So there are things here that you might know from beforehand. But if you're a data engineer that have previously worked a lot on the Azure side, so platform as a service solutions, you know that many of these data products have been requiring administrators to set up the service for security and compliance and governance within Azure. So you have your landing zones and you have your resource groups within them and the networking and the private endpoints and so forth. But because Fabric is a SaaS service, it's quite a lot easier to set things up and running. Lots of this requires either no setup or very minimal. But you need to think about the architecture anyway, because when we get into this is a web browser interface. So you log on to your web browser, you point it to app.fabric.microsoft.com. You then will hit the authentication. You put in your Enter ID, you get authenticated, then you hit the front end of this setup. And a lot of the work that you do, for instance, with all the drag and drop low code user tools, happen in the web front end. And then when you're done and you publish, they will be sent both to the metadata platform, but also to the backend capacity platform, where they will be deployed and created. And it's important to notice this, because when you're working within, say, an event stream, and you've created every single little detail you need, and your web browser crashes, I mean, it happens sometimes, that stuff is gone, unless you publish in between, because that just exists as a JSON file on your temp drive where your browser is storing things. So it's important to know that the web front end is completely separate from the back end until you start hitting publish and the API receives the create item commands. But it also means that we have several different parts here that are interactive and where you will need to think about things like networking, private endpoints, private VNets, these kind of things.
Oh, God.
So Fabric is a multi-tenant, so it's there's a logical isolation between these tenants as well. And tenants in this case will be the same as the Microsoft Entra tenant. It's one-to-one on those. Right. Oh, so data security.
Okay, yes, security, Johan. Big area. Like you say, it's a SaaS system. A lot of this stuff is taken care of for you. However, you do need to be aware of it within the architecture and design, as you rightly pointed out. So I'll just go over some of the security stuff that's included with Fabric. So the integration, the integration with Microsoft Entra with that tenant, and that gives us like the logical data isolation between the different regions. So if you put data in like say Australia East or America or West US, wherever, and it will stay within that region. And it'll secure multi-tenancy, you got multi-tenant management, and it integrates with the entire Microsoft ecosystem really well. Now, all of the data that you put onto Azure or Fabric or whatever it is into OneLake, it's all encrypted at rest. So, very unlikely someone's going to break into the data center and steal it. In the extremely unlikely event that happens, your data is all safe. It's encrypted at rest, but it's also encrypted at transit. So obviously that's more of a thing to concern ourselves with. The data's moving from the data center to the screen of the user, and that's encrypted in transit. But our users, they only need access to the data they need access to, and that's got to be controlled somehow. So that's controlled a lot with role-based access control. So like we had in Azure, role-based access control, RBAC, is a big feature of Fabric itself. So that's the security aspect of it, Johan. Can you tell us about the compliance?
Yeah, and I think we need to speed things up, by the way, because we've got 5 minutes left.
I think you're right.
But I'll try to not speak too quickly. The key compliance features that you see on this slide, so regional data storage, secure metadata and processing, etc., directly support the organization's needs for securely managing data across regions while meeting the local regulations and leveraging the broader Microsoft ecosystem. So many organizations operate across multiple regions and must comply with local data regulations like GDPR in Europe or CCPA in California. I mean, CCPA will affect businesses outside as long as they do business in California. Fabric's multi-geo capacities or capabilities ensure that you can meet these compliance needs while maintaining a centralized data strategy. With Fabric, data stays at rest in the region it was created. For example, if your European team processes data, that data is stored and secured in Europe. This keeps your business aligned with the regional regulations while maintaining performance for local teams. But while your actual data remains in the regional geographies, metadata and some processing tasks are securely managed in your home region. So if your home region is in the US and you're, like with me being in Europe, the metadata will be staged in US, whereas the data itself is stored in Europe. So that centralizes the control. Did you say anything, Martin?
No, sorry. I thought it was my turn to speak, but obviously I was incorrect.
Well, yes. Well, you can always speak. It's you have valuable insights. Just 2 more points from my end. So if your organization uses Microsoft 365 or Azure, Fabric works within the same tenant. Again, it's because we're using the Entra ID tenant as the baseline for anything that Microsoft has to do with tenants. That includes 365 and Azure. And as your organization expands, Fabric supports multi-geo configurations seamlessly. So whether you're adding a new region or a new workload, compliance is built in, allowing you to do things easily. Right, Martin, take it away.
Yeah, righto. Before we start giving some exam tips, I'm going to give them fairly soon. We'll just recap on some of the security compliance that we've talked about. So we've got activity logs. What activity is going on within our solutions, either little bits or holistically. And we want to track that in auditing as well. So auditing is like what happened historically. It's not like monitoring in real time, but we want to monitor data access as well. And Johan mentioned before Fabric Activator, which can look at data as it comes in and can alert based on values in the data. And there's a whole load of other things that can trigger alerts, not just based on the data that's held within databases, but on other things like Spark sessions using too much storage or whatever it is, events within like our storage or our compute or whatever it is. The integration with Fabric and the monitoring tools that are available to use, such as the monitoring hub that Johan showed earlier, is a really good thing to get to know and look at monitoring that goes on with there. And we've got other tools that can give compliance reports within the Fabric ecosystem and the Azure system as a whole. So that's a quick recap of what's going on there. And if we run forward a bit, we look at what we're going to prepare on for exam day. What do you think, Johan? We've just been through the entire series. So
yeah. So what you need to do is get hands-on, either by getting a trial capacity, or if you getting hold of Fabric in your organization, if you can. Get a trial capacity running by yourself. Of course, I don't think you can do that with a Gmail account. You probably need to get something else. But getting a trial, getting access to try things out hands-on is really, really important to get things into your fingers, because yes, you will be tried and asked things that you need experience with. Think about highlights, pipelines, ingestion processes, but also think about the Fabric integration with OneLake, those kind of things. You need to make sure that you set up things properly in the trial capacities and test everything inside this study guide that you have access to. Do brush up on T-SQL skills because they will be critical for querying. Use the official Learn modules because that's important. There are all the things that you need to learn are on Microsoft Learn.
Good stuff, Johan. So, right, what's coming up in the series? We've got some implementation and management of analytic solutions. Well, that's what we've just done. We're going to look at ingesting and transforming next. And we will look at preparing for the exam day and get some Q&A going on there. Now, we'll just recap on the 50% vouchers that we've got coming up. Can't miss opportunities are the FabCon and the data days that are coming up on these sessions over the next 50 days. I think that's right, isn't it, Johan?
Yep. And then final one, I saw we had a question on whether you can get hold of the data on these reports that were seen in the Mantra Hub. And
I think there's a question here, Johan. It says, is it possible to capture data to monitor and then generate a custom report? So I think the person's asking, can we capture monitoring data and generate our own custom report rather than rely on the pre-canned reports that you showed?
I think you can, and it's because you do have the. I think there are some custom built reports as part of the Fabric toolkits on GitHub, but you can also look at the semantic models that are provided as the base layer of these reports that we looked at, and look at where they fetch data from.
That is
so
great.
That should be doable.
That's great. That's great. Thanks a lot for that. And I think that brings us to a close, Johan. So I just like to say, it's been really great presenting with you, Johan, despite us being on opposite sides of the earth.
It has been great. I hope people have enjoyed the session, and I guess we need to stop now before we're thrown out.
Okay. Thanks for
thank you. Thank you for our amazing speakers, and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.